Islam family. Packs up some more. Let me tell you, you don't even know I'm tired. I really am tired today. So many things working on today. Let's see if I can get things acclimated today. Okay. All right. Islam family, I'm just trying to make sure everything is good. The camera looks a little blurry, but it is what it is. And we're just going to go with the flow. We're going to go with the flow. Islam family, peace and love. Happy Saturday. I had issues on what I wanted to talk about today. And obviously last week we left off at procedures of the human trafficking. So I'm going to put this here. Human trafficking. Process. Right? The human trafficking process. Now, there are three things that Moors need to do when they're dealing with situations under the human trafficking. But today's topic is going to circle around Christian black codes. I think it was 1724, but don't get me to lying. I'm going to check it. I'm going to fact check it. I have it on my document, so let me go and see if I can bring it up. Christian black codes. Christian black codes. So it should bring up Christian black codes. I actually did a class on Christian black codes of 1724, so I was absolutely positively accurate on that particular topic. So we're going to kind of go through some things to bridge off of that. Christian black codes. This is the problem that's bleeding into human trafficking, right? So the human trafficking is of Moorish nationals who have declared and proclaimed this, right? And then we have Christian black codes are everyone else, right? Everyone else is here. These are your Negro, blacks, whites, African American, Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, but I'm not gonna go there. I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole. I'm not gonna go there. I'm gonna leave. Oh goodness, leave it at ETC. Right? These are your wards. These are your wards. These are your outlaws. These are your bandits. These are your terrorists. And I know this is a hard thing to accept. I really do get it, because at one point I was here. At one point majority of us Moorish American nationals, we're here, right? This is considered a so-called protected class, but it's still under the same status. It literally is. They're just a little bit more privileged than the other individuals classifying under that particular status. Islam? So, you have human trafficking process for Moorish American nationals, and then you have everybody else over here, right? So, Moors, when you want to do your trafficking, and everybody else who has not done this yet, if you haven't declared and proclaimed, and what does that mean? I do have instructions on the website, the www.MoorishAmericanConsulateNE website. If you send me an email at MoorishAmericanConsulateNE@gmail.com, that's MoorishAmericanConsulateNE@gmail.com, I'll send you the instructions, I'll send you what you need to proclaim and declare your nationality. Now, what does proclaiming and declaring your nationality mean? It means doing this. The name declaration. The name declaration and the judicial, I think I spelled that, proclamation. Right. Those are two forms. This form is 2 pages. This form is 8 pages. Right? So, in order to declare and proclaim your nationality and correct, which is correcting your status, this is correcting your status in society. Correcting your status in society is declaring and proclaiming, and you're doing your name declaration, which is going to give you your titles, your L's, your Bays, your L Bays, your Bay L's, as well as your judicial proclamation. Your judicial proclamation is going to put everybody else on notice as to who you have, as to who you are, and that you've corrected your status, and you want them to and you're letting them know you did that. So who are the people you're letting know you did that? It's going to be the people who's enforcing this. And this is the key word, is these people who are enforcing this, which are these people. Okay? So, the individuals enforcing Christian black codes under statutes, ordinance, and regulations are the county of the so-called state that they are registered to, right? So, let's think about Pennsylvania Corporation. Pennsylvania Corporation. All right, wait a minute. It's a corporation, so we want to put it, oh goodness, this is a horrible, we want to put it, God. Pennsylvania Corporation, okay? This particular corporation has 67 counties. I domicile near this one. Delaware County. What's next to it is Montgomery. What's next to that is Chester, Bucks. There's a multitude of counties, but guess who are the so-called administrators? You got commissioner. Usually 3 of them. There are usually 3 commissioners. Then you have the commissioner. Let me do this. Let me do this justice, y'all. Let me do this justice. So you normally have a commissioner, administrator. Oops. You have commissioner, administrator, controller. A commissioner, administrator, controller, and then you have clerk of courts. Then you have clerks of courts. Then you have a district attorney. You have recorder of deeds, wills, orphans. And then you have a couple, then you got the treasurer. Then you also have the sheriff. You also have the coroner. You have everybody listed under the county. So this is particularly unique to so-called Delaware County. All right? So what we have here is Christian Black Codes of 1724 applies to everybody who's in wardship status and is identified under these, and these are the classifications. They are organized and structured through the so-called counties within those so-called corporate states. And Pennsylvania specifically has 67. I domicile near Delaware County, and these are the individuals violating you. At the county level, enforcing this. We're over here. We're not even subject to any of this. We're on the other side of the line, right? So if you want to even go to Pennsylvania level, now you got Pennsylvania corporate leads. So now we got the governor. You got the governor at the head. I want to be accurate with this. So let me go all the way up my document. So you have the governor, secretary. So you have the governor, the secretary, the treasurer at this level, secretary, governor, treasurer. You have attorney general, and then you have the over top of that, because this is the so-called executive, judicial, and legislative. That lovely word, right? But then you have the senators, and you have the House of Representatives, okay? I'm trying to leave space so I'm not as to put too much on here. So, when you proclaim and declare your nationality, you are coming out of this, and you're going into this. And in order to do that, you have to declare and proclaim. And what declaring and proclaiming is name declaration. You're completing that. So for me, it was Sharon Tracy Gale. So I was declaring that Sharon Tracy Gale, the wardship name that you have me labeled under, is now declaring and proclaiming her Moorish nationality, and I am now Sharon Tracy Gale Bay, right? In proper English, stated properly, right? I don't want to put that there, right? So here's what it looks like. I don't want to write it too big. Maybe at first I was listed as Sharon Tracy Gale, ward, right? So that was my classification. And when I came out of here and came over here, I was now listed as proper person, right? So here I'm there, here I'm here, right? But in order to come from here to here, you got to do that. You got to do the name declaration proclamation. The name declaration, judicial proclamation. That's the first step, right? After you do that step, you want to get your nationality ID card, right? So you want to get your nationality identification card, right? But before you do this first. Do this first. Because you're in a system that recognizes you as this. And you're now rebutting this. You're rebutting it. This. You're rebutting that. You're rebutting this. You're saying, look, I just came to the realization that my entire life I've been identifying as a Negro, Black, White, African American, Puerto Rican, etc., ward, outlaw, bandit, terrorist, as Sharon Tracy Gale in all caps. And I've been identifying as that because I've been answering to it and I've been signing things, confirming and affirming this in my ignorance, right? So that's why you're here. Individuals that are here have this. Federal Reserve notes. People over here have lawful currency. Which is gold, silver, coin, right? They have you playing the debt game over here. You're literally playing I don't know if I spelled that. Monopoly. You're playing this. You're playing Monopoly. The individuals that are profiting off of that game are these people. The governor, the secretary, treasury, the attorney general, executive, judicial, and legislative branch of the Pennsylvania Corporation. They elect senators. Y'all think y'all elect senators and House of Representatives. They have instituted 67 counties and divvied up the proceeds of Monopoly. So Monopoly have been divvied up to 67 counties. And this particular county where I domicile near is Delaware County. And these are the individuals profiting off of your enslavement. Profiting off of your ignorance. Profiting off of the fact that they've gotten you to play this game. And while you play this game, you're still slaves. Because you're subject to that. And the only individuals within that so-called game that are privileged, really, are these people. But not really, because the so-called middle class has been ostracized as well, right? They've been ostracized, they've been beat on, kicked up on. They're subject to all of that, they think, right? They don't know how they're living. They don't know what their government really is. They don't know how to proceed. So they're creating sovereign citizens movements. They're expatriating from the leaders of the game, which is United States citizenship is a fraud. It does not exist. It's unlawful, and claiming to be that puts you here. But more so here, because it doesn't freaking exist. And you're trying to push your unlawful, fraudulent will, however ignorant it may be, on people who have rights. Y'all got privileges over here. And many of those privileges is being slowly taken away from you because they can't afford to do it anymore. Because this United States Service Corporation has been leaned by the Moorish National Republic Federal Government and the Moorish American Consulate. It's leaned. Right? So now guess what happens when the head can't eat as good as the head used to eat? Guess what? It trickles down to everybody else, right? Trickles down here. So what do I mean when I say Christian black codes? What do I mean? Let's talk about that. The Christian Black Codes of 1724 were initiated during Reconstruction after the Civil War to control wards after they were emancipated, right? Passed by southern states, instead of giving these wards the same rights as Europeans, which were classified here. So they wanted a separation. That's like, look, we got to have some type of privilege over top of these so-called blacks that you have emancipated. So we're going to create some code system that will give you the illusion that you're free as long as you're paying into it. And the way you get these little pieces of paper from Monopoly is by having this. Is by having this within this, the Pennsylvania Corporation. So the Pennsylvania Corporation requests you to have this in order to have anything. In order to eat, in order to sleep, in order to marry, in order to divorce, in order to have children, in order to feed those children, you have to have this, right? Because you're subject to this through this. And these are the administrators. Who you vote for? You vote for your own enslavement. You think you are anyway, because these are families. These are European families that are actually listed under this. So these are the so-called European whites that are listed under that are subject to, but they're in a privileged status. So they're managing this. They're benefiting. They're like back in the day when you used to have the horseback men who would ride. They would ride their horses looking for Asiatics that they classified unlawfully and fraudulently as blacks so they could take them back to the plantation. So the European got this classification in order to make them feel like they weren't still subject, to make them feel like that they weren't still wards, that they weren't still playing the same game. But they weren't at the bottom. They were in the middle class. Right? So they got them to believe that they were higher up, and they gave them authority. All right, if you organize that territory, right? If you organize that particular territory, we'll give you a county, right? That's underneath the Service Corporation, underneath Pennsylvania Corporation, and we'll give you a status above them. All the things that you're subjecting all of these individuals to outside of this, to a degree, now they kind of literally in it, right? They're all in the thick of it. We're going to subject these people to all of this monopoly game playing, right? You're still subject, but you're in a privileged status in that situation, right? But you have all of this. So as long as you keep getting these wards to not do this, which is nationalized, and get outside of this game, you'll be fine. You won't have to worry about anything. You will be fine. You don't have to worry about anything. Your bills will get paid. You won't have no bills because you getting all the wards that think that they're free because they live in their own home that they don't own. They're sharecropping. They have a conveyance, an automobile, sharecropping. They have to go to the JOB in order to even afford those things. And they've sacrificed family, friends, love, peace, harmony to be here all day to play this game. they included the blacks had to be in service of a white person. That they could not have congregations together, was just talking about that yesterday, that they could not speak out, and that they could not have weapons. How is this demonstrated? Because the people here don't have supreme laws to use, even though the laws are there, and they try to use them. That is not something you can use, because outlaws, bandits, and terrorists cannot have weapons and cannot do specific things, because you are warring against the nationals. You're warring against the government. This is just a service corporation to manage individuals that want to still play this game. Right? So what am I saying? So when we sit here and say weapons, you're not allowed to have weapons. What violations, what constitutional violation is that? It's under the Bill of Rights, right? But the Bill of Rights is subject, the only people subject to that is people in their proper status who corrected it and are now declared and proclaimed. In order for you to have rights, what you got to do? You got to know them. You have to know your rights, because ain't nobody going to tell you, because many people, even people who look like us, have been profiting off of the fact that we're ignorant. So Moors, even undeclared or declared Moors, it is your responsibility to know the law. Not for anybody else, really, for you. So when somebody comes up to you and be like, do you have a license and do you have license to carry that weapon? Well, what's the correct response as a Moorish American national? As a Moorish American national, you should be like, it's my right to bear arms under the Constitution, which you and your family members pledged an oath to through the Declaration of Independence. And we'll get through the Declaration of Independence, and I'm actually going through that with my children to get them to understand the debt the Albion, the European, has to you and has to me. Hold them to that. You have to hold them to nothing else. The same black codes were said to have been made null and void with the ratification of the 13th Amendment in 1865. The ratification of the 13th Amendment in 1865 was never needed, was never ratified, because the actual so-called government dissolved in 1861. Sina Dia. Why did they dissolve? Because they was fighting wars. They was fighting amongst each other in 1861. So you can't ratify nothing after that, and there's no law that you are subject to at all past that, because it was dissolved. So everything, even if it's good, you can use it, but you don't even have to. Stick with the original Constitution, 1791, with the original 10 Bill of Rights, because the reality is you never needed an amendment to give you anything. You never needed an amendment to give you anything more, because you already had sovereignty. I'll say sovereignty, because what sovereignty means is that you have the right to rule self. And nobody else can tell you what to do, especially if they came here in the early 1600s, the late 1500s, as chattel property of Great Britain. And the Declaration of Independence of 1776 was what they were fighting. Great Britain, King George, fighting for liberation from that. How you gonna get liberated? Think about this, y'all. In order for you to dissolve a relationship with one individual and claim allegiance to another, what you gotta do? You gotta pledge to the nation that you are now inhabiting, that you are now immigrants. So the Albion were immigrants here, sent here by the people that they were under, which was Great Britain and Europe. They were sent here. And through them being sent here, they were like, I got to pay this, I got to pay that. I have no money. The only way I can pay it is in lawful currency. They couldn't use this paper money to pay anybody back, to pay Great Britain for any of the land that they were given to till, to produce something, whether it was tobacco, whether it was cotton, whether it was whatever it was. They had to pay, but they had to pay in lawful currency. It was like a catch-22 in the thick of it, but they wanted to be free from Great Britain. That was what all the Declaration of Independence was about. So how do you become free in another land that's occupied by these individuals, Moors? You have to claim allegiance to the Moors. That's what the Declaration of Independence was all about. Breaking that relationship that they had with Great Britain and pledging allegiance to Morocco, Northwest of Maxim, the Moors. Could they do this on their own? No. Because you can't sit here and disbar from one and come over here unless you got some type of security somewhere or unless you got some type of funding somewhere. So what did we do in 1861? To assist their disbandment from Great Britain, we loaned them 25 million gold, silver coin to even gang war with Great Britain. And we helped them in that. What am I saying? I'm saying a lot, y'all. Let's get back to black codes. Although the southern states adopted black codes to keep former slaves from voting and imposed other restrictions, the 14th and 15th Amendments were supposedly had eliminated these codes. But as you read them down below and study the laws of the land in conjunction with religion and politics, you'll discover these codes have been modernized in a disguise, and many are still in effect today. What am I saying? You think you're free and you're not free because you're still identifying here under the ward shit game. You're a terrorist. You're outside of law. Like Mario Brothers, you ain't eat that pellet. You keep jumping around the pellet. You like jumping around it, ducking, throwing somebody at the damn pellet, so take the pellet for you instead of taking the pellet, which is your Moorish American nationality, right? So I'm saying a lot, and I'm trying to get my thoughts together so you can understand what it is that I'm saying to you. They've only repackaged and modernized Christian black codes so you would feel like you were free and you would do your job to keep this functioning. Keeping the Albions eating. Keeping it all happening, right? That's what you're doing by staying here. Right? So what am I saying? I don't want to go too far. I just want to give you the meats and the potatoes and realize that every code that you're dealing with is the Christian black codes that's being managed by these administrators under the Pennsylvania contracts that they have, which is through the registration in the 67 counties. That's what I'm saying. Governor, secretary, and that's why when you declare and proclaim your nationality and you have your name declaration, your judicial proclamation, you are rebutting this. You're rebutting all of that. You're saying, I'm a Moorish American national. I no longer identify as this ward. I'm no longer an outlaw. I'm no longer a bandit. You have no jurisdiction over me anymore. I am back on the land. I am no longer swimming at sea. And I have the supreme laws of the land to support me and your oaths that you gave in that support. So you're going to send it to the 7 locations. Once you do the name declaration, judicial proclamation, you sign it, you seal it in red ink, red stamps. You are going to send it to the governor, send it to the secretary, send it to the treasury, send it to the attorney, not of the state of Washington, the head. This is registered in Washington District of Columbia. You're going to send it to those. These are the state reps. These state reps are under that. And why are they under Washington? Washington's the federal, right? And the states are independent, but at the same time they owe their allegiance to the federal, even though that's what's the word I'm looking for? Dissolved in terms of the republic, but under the corporation it is absolutely not. All right? Okay. So where are we at? I'm trying to get this focused so you can understand what it is that I'm saying, and so you can follow the yellow brick road and follow the trail. it is important for you to be able to understand what it is that I'm saying. So when you are challenged and you have to rebut, you know what you're talking about. And more importantly, you know who you're talking about. United States Service Corporation, which is 10-mile radius of Washington, District of Columbia. The Pennsylvania Corporation under the 67 counties, which is segregated on how to divvy up the spoils and how to manage all these people. It's a lot of them. It's a lot of them. So you need a lot of counties, and some people have, like, for instance, North Carolina Corporation, they have 120 counties, all with individual needs. So in each particular county, you got the commissioners. It's usually 3. Then you have the sheriff, who's supposed to be holding the law, because they're all within the same building. You have the administrator, you have the controller or manager, you have the clerk of courts. Now the clerk of courts is as well as the district attorney, the recorder of deeds, orphans and wills, and then you have the treasurer. Why is this person so important? Why is that one so important? That's the start of all of your anguishes, your issues when you are trafficked by a bandit on the road. And guess what was not mentioned in there? Guess what wasn't mentioned in there? What did not mention in there that doesn't even exist there? The police department. It's not even there. It's not there. They're a third-party interloper subcontracted by the particular county. So the particular counties created another corporation which is housed and employed by their family members yet again. Everybody eating off of each other. And so for each 67 counties, you most likely have one police department that's subcontract out because it's not a part of this infrastructure that is used to make sure they got people to pay. So the police department is subcontracted to make sure they provide wealth for the county, right? And what comes with that? The prisons, the jails, the PLW camps that many Moors, unconscious, well as conscious, are sitting in, working for them through yet again what? Corporations registered within the corporate state of the territory that you domicile near. So Pennsylvania has many corporations like Walmart, Trader Joe's, Wawa, so many others. And guess who's making all of the products? Usually the wards that have been pushed into those tribunals through the clerks of courts. So the clerks of courts are the ones that are supposed to be a little bit knowledgeable in law, but I mean, we talking about wards, right? We talk about people who are outside of law. So they done created something that they need to deal with these so they can have a position over top of them. So these individuals have a position over top of all these wards under black codes. Why you want to be subject to that? Why would you want individuals profiting off of your sweat equity, your labor, because you feel like you got to go to this? Somebody asked me today, how do I identify as a Moorish American national? How do I feed my family? I don't want to get a JOB. Most people don't want to get a JOBs. You're only here because you have to be here because you don't have the knowledge yet to not be there. And when you gain the knowledge to not be here, then you'll be able to find different ways to support yourself. But in order to get out of this game, you got to be in this one. And this ain't a game, this life. This a game, this life. Right? Because all this is based squarely on you not doing this. So when y'all see that artwork that I love to look at, it has a table. It's a table of Monopoly. The Monopoly game. We love playing it. And we be having straight arguments playing it, right? You have the Monopoly game is the board, and then you have all the Asiatic sons, and specifically sons, holding the board up. So the sun is like this, the boards, and who all playing it? All the people here. The Albions. That's classified here. Holding up this. When you sovereigns to the land. Right? It's a hard thing to think about, but it's the reality. Now, some people sit here and say, well, when I proclaim and declare my Moorish nationality, I am, what's the word I'm looking for? When I proclaim and declare my Moorish nationality, I am, and I put it on the record at that plantation job, right? They deny it. Not only do they deny it, they may let you go. Say, you warned against the state, right? When you was warned against it by not being in that proper person, they know what they got to do. They trying to get you out of there because they got a whole bunch of other sleeping Moors that's still playing this game. They still playing it, so they got to get you out of there. They got to get you out of there, and they're going to do whatever they need to do to get you out of there. The question is, you got to start tying camels first. Moors, we got to get our houses in order, as Consul General Shalea Moore Bay says. Get your house in order. What does that look like? Declare, proclaim your nationality. Send it to the 7 locations to let them know that you are no longer a ward, you're not no longer a ward, so they got to take some pieces off this game. They got to literally take some pieces and some property off of that game. It's no longer subject to that. So you got to let the governor know, the secretary, the treasury, the attorney generals, as well as all of them based in Washington, D.C., because that's the head. Everything else trickles down, right? So the more and more nationals, the more and more Moors that declare and proclaim their nationality is coming off this board. So the board getting rickety-dicky. So now a foundation that was held up by the Asiatic is now falling, because Asiatics is coming up from under that table and getting up out of there. Slowly but surely, they're getting up out of there. So the first thing you always want to do the best way to tie your camel to get your houses in order is to proclaim and declare your Moorish nationality, to send it to the 7 locations, as well as to, next step, get your nationality identification cards and know where you're sending it, Moors. You have to read. Reading is fundamental. This is part of being competent in your own right. Stop sending all your documents out and not keeping a copy for your own records so you know where you're going. I say to people, keep a binder. I have a binder, and I have a binder. This is different. I have a 8.5 by 14-inch binder, and all my documents is right here, copies of them. Because guess what gave that document weight? Not my signature, your signature. When you signed your documents, you were already declared and proclaimed. Already declared and proclaimed. Right? So make copies of it. Why wait? When I send people's paperwork out, because I know that the United States Service Corporation is playing interference, because it takes a while for a beast that's been running for 100 years to run out of steam. It ain't gonna run out of steam just by a smack in the face. It's a big smack, but they've generated so much they can self-propel for a while. So in that self-propelling, it is your job, Moors, to continue kicking that machine so we can break it down. And it's all of our jobs to kick it. Everybody's job to kick that damn beast so we can get it down. Because the beast ain't better or bigger or stronger than even one Moor. But just imagine if you got 1 million all kicking it. Unity is our problem. Under this status, we have isolated ourselves. We have disbanded friendships, relationships. We have chosen strangers versus our own blood. We've done all of those sinful things. So now that when we jump up out of that matrix, it's going to be some shock that you got to deal with. The fact that now when you look around, you don't have nothing. But yet you see your brothers and sisters every day that are Moors, whether they're declared or not. It's our job to get it out on the byways. It's our job to shout it out at the hilltops. You Moors, let's get our shit back. Let's proclaim and declare ourselves. Let's unify. Let's get all of that colonization mindsets. Let's do away with that, because you're still subject to it because it's still here. And the only way it's getting out is by reading where you come from, who you come from, and who you are. It's your job. Nobody else's. It's yours. Right? So If you have to ask a question, I've always heard this, if you have to ask a question, you are not ready to move on that thing that you're asking a question on. So sit there and open that book up and study. It's going to be uncomfortable, some of these things. Because for 100 and something years, we've been identifying as a ward, a slave, the enslaved freeman. We've been free forever, but we've been enslaved mentally, therefore in bondage. So when you walk up to somebody and you say, I'm non-tax obligatory, I don't pay taxes, you gotta know why you don't do that. And you can't sit here and go to the front desk and speak to the pawn that is placed in front of you to have that debate. That individual is just as ignorant as you was. Got the J.O.B. Think this is not a game. Think this is reality. Outlaws, bandits, terrorists, subject to this, under this. Christian black codes. That's the reality, family. The reality. So don't sit here and get mad at them and call them all types of names, because they are your brothers and your sisters, and they are ignorant today where you was yesterday. Have respect. Have love. Pull them out. By coming to them and saying, look, I'm a Moorish American national, and I know you've been miseducated and deceived to think that the United States is a country and that you're subject to all of these things, but the reality is, it's your mind that's messed up. But I was there too, so don't feel bad and don't get egotistical or don't get prideful, because I've been there with you. But I don't pay taxes. And if you don't understand what it is that I'm saying, that's okay. Do you have a supervisor? But don't go back to back with the front lineman that's just as ignorant as you was. Whether it's at the post office, whether it's at the store, wherever it is, have respect. Islam family, have respect for the people. Please do that. If you don't do anything else, do that. Because they was just as ignorant as you was at one particular time in their life. And you owe them that. And they're your brothers and your sisters. Because only one mother has given us all suck. Islam family, how y'all doing? I know it's rainy outside. Pax et more. Islam. So we're going over a whole lot of stuff. And I try to... So where I'm at is... When you find out that you're a Moorish American national, it's your responsibility to have love first in your heart. Because it's the hardest thing to sit here and realize that you are more, and then you get all this knowledge, and then you go to a store, and you're confronted with one of your brothers and sisters who don't know who they are, and they give you all types of stank. Well, they mad because they here. And they don't want to be there, and they ain't getting nothing. Majority of them ain't getting nothing. They're working hours upon hours, and here you come in there making more stress for them. Because what did Prophet Noble Jawali say? He said, don't burden my Moors. Don't burden them. They right there. If anything, liberate them. All right, where was I at? All right. So tying camel Moors is declaring and proclaiming your Moorish nationality. These are the two documents that you use to provide that. You're changing the wardship name from the all caps, which is the ward under the black codes, to your lawful and Moorish titles, which is the El Bay Day at the end. So that's the completion of the declaring, but you want to let them know, because for your whole life you've been under here, and you have to give them what's the word I'm looking for? Notice. You have to give them notice, because they're gonna keep playing with you. You gotta rebut, and this is your first rebuttal. So why are you thinking you're going to war with somebody who already know who you are? You just don't know. And now you getting war. And they got a whole infrastructure and all these people to sit here and just keep denying. Just keep denying. Just act like you don't know what they're talking about. They get directives. They have these meetings that we don't want to come to. They have them all day. They get internal documents that they read because they know they have to. Because they playing this. And they ain't playing it to win it. You need to stop playing and get over here and do what you're supposed to be doing. So what are? Decrees the expulsion of the Jews from the colonies. That's an interesting one. I ain't even going to go there. That's Article 1 of the Christian Black Codes. Number 2 is make it imperative on masters to impart religious instructions on their slaves. That's where the Christianity comes from, family, because they were forced upon you, and on Sundays they made sure they beat it into you. You didn't have a choice to go. You still, to a degree, don't have a choice to go because your mind's so corrupt. You go every Sunday, even if you don't want to, even if you don't like it. So they made it very, very entertaining today to go. Permits the exercise of Roman Catholics' creed only. Every other mode of worship is prohibited. How is that bleeding into today? When I say Islam, you automatically have an exorcism, like I just did a spell on you. If somebody has a hijab on, you sitting here looking at her like she weird, but yet she's your sister or your brother with his kufu or with his fez. They have already got your minds all corrupt to think that there was only one thing permitted, which is the Roman Catholics, which you identify as a Christian. And that's the brainwashing, so you won't see your own culture and recognize it or worship it. Because when you were on those plantations, they beat it out of you and they put this in you and they separated you all over the world, separated you, literally. So when you had your whole family and you were living in a house like down the street, think about you were living in a house down the street. And all of a sudden you got all these Albions coming and ransacking your communities. Think about the Black Wall Street. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that they came into that Moorish community and killed all those people and took all their stuff. And just look at what Tulsa, Oklahoma is today and who's running it today. Because we want to keep playing these little games. Negroes placed under the direction or supervision of any other person than a Catholic was liable for confiscation. So not only did you have to act in that capacity, if you wasn't following that creed, that Roman creed, you lost your property. So you followed it, my point, because you ain't want to lose what was yours. It was built all in the laws, y'all. So when you were off the plantations, you were subject still to the plantations under the Christian Black Codes, and you were not aware of that because at that particular time, everybody was against you. And your family was always taken from you. So just think about when you were on the plantations and you did have children. By the time there was 5, they was taken to another plantation. By the time you had a child from a man, if he still was living, he was producing heirs all over the plantation. Just so you know, he wasn't just producing them with you. He was being used as a breeder. That's why they still do it today. Breeding all over the place. Right? So that's why he's doing that. That's Christian Black Codes. Sundays and holidays are to be strictly enforced. They still do that today, to a degree. It's kind of getting laxed up. All right. We talked the other day about how they would not allow you to organize in big, large numbers. The only time y'all was able to be in big, large numbers was when y'all was at church. That was the only time it was sanctioned. If a group of you got together, wherever you are, they got nervous. Because they knew what happened when the groups of you got together. You start talking about what's going on. You stop talking about what's going on. You start organizing, strategizing. So when they're having all of their lovely meetings, they're forbidding you from ever getting together to talk about the things that go wrong with you. And then within the churches, they had deacons and pastors that watched you. So those were the agents. Telling on you. Wondering why they was watching you, why your brother got hung. Because 9 times out of 10, the church pastor was the one that told on you. Just saying. It's the reality. We forbid our white subjects of both classes to marry the blacks under penalty of being fined and subject to some other arbitrary punishments. We forbid all curates, priests, and missionaries and other secular or religious clergies or even the chaplain in the Navy to sanction the marriages. So even back then, you weren't allowed to get married. You had to get a permission. Where do you get permission to get married to today? And actually getting married, because we are consorts. We don't get married, and we are not husbands and wives. You go to county. You go to a county to get a license for marriage. That don't sound like Black Codes to you? That ain't another contract that you're subjecting yourself to? But more so than anything, you're subjecting your children to it because they have hypothecated the womb of mommy, which is why she keep birthing you into those systems? The ceremonies and forms prescribed by the Ordinance of Bolis and the Edict of 1691 for marriage shall be observed both with regards to free persons and slaves, but the consent of the father and mother of the slave is not necessary. So y'all ain't had no say, but back when you were under your nationality, you definitely had to say who your children were conjoined with, because if the families weren't cool with each other, that wasn't going to go down. Now, Article 9, I think, is interesting. Children issued from the marriage of slaves shall follow the condition of their parents, and shall belong to the master of the wife, and not of the husband, if the husband and wife have different masters. That's so interesting. Like, I don't want to go too deep into it. I kind of just wanted to put some specific ones. Article 12. We forbid slaves to carry offensive weapons or heavy sticks under the penalty of being whipped and of having said weapons confiscated for the benefit of the person seizing the same. An exemption is made in favor of those slaves who were hunting or shooting for their masters, meaning they were hunting for their masters, and who carried with them a written permission, that's called the license to carry, or the license to have. That's where you have the weapons, where you have a license to have a concealed so-called weapon. But you don't have weapons. The Constitution, if you are in your proper person, affords you the ability to bear arms. It's all in the language. Our language came from what? We went to schools in these counties, y'all. We went to schools in these counties that subject us to all of this, because that's all they was teaching us. And guess who wasn't teaching us? Our mothers and our fathers wasn't teaching us. I'm not saying that they're wrong. They just didn't prepare us for reality outside of Christian black codes. They didn't prepare us for this because they didn't know anything about it. Nothing about it, but they knew a lot about this stuff right here. And they knew it because they went to those schools that started, I think, in the early 1900s or the mid 1900s, where they were making it compulsory under Christian black codes to take your children to those institutions for 8 hours, 5 days a week. That's why they did that. One, because they wanted to make sure they were being programmed. Two, they wanted to make sure they weren't running around the streets. Guess who was home all day? The Albions was home all day. They wanted to be free, to be comfortable, so they had to put you in a JLB and your children in an institution all day, so they could be brainwashed, so they could support all of this. But more importantly, support them, because that's exactly who you support today through this system. You're playing Monopoly. You never stop playing, and the only time you stop playing is when you declare and proclaim your nationality, right? So not only was these codes subject to the slaves, the masters, they were held to that. So if you belong to John Smith of the county of Pennsylvania, Delaware County, if you belong to him, right? So now he's going to make sure you ain't doing none of this, right? What was he using to make sure that wasn't happening? That infrastructure that's not even a part of their infrastructure, which is the police department. Their JOB, their job as wards also, but in a privileged status under the county, because they had to be put a little bit above you in order for them to push this. So it was called the middle class. They're called the middle class, which they got rid of. They literally kill them dead. To institute all of this to watch and control individuals identifying as this. That's exactly why they did it, right? So now they had police departments, because obviously sheriffs are supposed to uphold the law, even though most police departments is being managed by the sheriff of the county. I'm just telling you. And if a sheriff has taken an oath to a constitution, which is all the way over here, if he's taken an oath to the Constitution, is he a sheriff, or is that just another corporation? He's a sheriff in name only. He does not have that authority, because whatever you're commissioned with is what you can do, and you can go nowhere beyond that. So if you're commissioned to protect the people in their property, if you're commissioned to do that and you step out of that for even a second, you're no longer in that position, because the things that protected you in there, you left. So when you sit here, but again, they under this, right? Because everybody playing this game, man. If you playing this game, how you winning? And he ain't really subject to treat you right, because you're not even in it, because you ain't here. He can only support people who are here, because that's who is subject to the Constitution, or who has protections to the Constitution, but not nobody who's over here. They're subject all the way around. So why do you think the police departments are doing what? They come get you because you violated parole. They come get you because you violated family court. You didn't make your payments, because they created all of that infrastructure, again, to make sure you are always leaning down and someone else is playing Monopoly. You're not even playing. You're holding up the board. You're holding up the board so they can play the game. You are the commodity. You are the cattle. And it only takes one step to become a human again. Literally one step. And that's proclaiming, declaring your Moorish nationality. Islam? So Moors have to tie their camel by first declaring, getting their identification cards. And the third process is starting their trust. Before you change anything or start demonstrating outside, do the trust. So you got 1 is here, 2 is here, 3 is here. First 3 things you do before you want to start getting over here playing. Before you want to sit here and start getting all your stuff that you acquired here and pushing them over here, outside of that, because you corrected your status in society by rebutting this fraud, you have to get those 3 things first. Nationality, national identification cards, your trust. Because you're going to link that trust right up to your government, which is the Moorish National Republic federal government, who commissioned the Moorish American Consulate to stop this crap from going on in Morocco. And it ain't no choice. Nobody has a choice. You can stay over here if you want to play. You want to stay over here because it's fun, I guess. It's fun. One more asked me, he was like, well, I don't really understand all that I need to know. Is it wise for me to do anything until I really gain clarity? Well, if you're subject to all of this, this is just a pretty way of showing it to you. It's way, way darker than that. Completely darker. If you think waiting to do this and correct this and to stay subject to this, something you should wait on, you had a question? Oh, something you should wait on? I mean, that's something you got to determine for yourself. But if people could take your children away from you at any time through family court, I have mothers contacting me in regards to this very thing, because under here they were subject. They're not subject over there, but at one point they was. So they got all this business to settle, right? Take all the players off of the board of Monopoly that we placed on that board. Who did we place on that board? We placed ourselves on that board. We placed all our property on that board, and we placed, more importantly, our children on that board. And we have to get them off the board. Right. And the only way you're going to get them off this board from playing this game is to know the law. And it's so simple. I don't even want to erase nothing, but the laws are what? We already got the 4. You got the Declaration of Independence. Hold them to the Declaration of Independence of 1776. You have the Articles of Confederation of 1777. You have the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1786, 1787, 1836 still in force. And you have the Constitution for the United States of America, 1791. So those are your I ain't gonna call them domestic. Those are the rules on the land. And then you got your international ones. The United Nations Declarations of the Rights of the Child, human rights, rights of the indigenous. And then you also have consular court relationships. Hence why the Moorish American Consulate was erected or reaffirmed or back in action and not in passivity, because nobody who doesn't have sovereignty here, even if they have trustee positions, can stop anything outside of the contracts, the charters that gave them any authority. Nobody can move outside of those, is my point. So if you are a so-called president and you are your JOB, let's take Trump, for instance, who's the president of a service corporation, but not necessarily president of the land.
That's right.
Let's take what he can do as the executive branch of that corporation, United States Service Corporation. What can he make an executive order on? That's a good question. Can he just say any old thing he feel like saying? Or is he held to his oath, which is to support the Constitution, and that's the only thing he has free egress to create executive orders, because they're already in the law. All he's doing is enforcing it and creating a specific task force to deal with that specific thing. Right? So if it's not in the Constitution, can he do it? Because he's executive. He can only enforce what the legislative body said, which is the Congress, House of Representatives. They are the ones that initiate bills. Mm-hmm. What are bills? They initiate the bills, and they're the ones that say, but guess where the bills is coming from? The House and the Senate. And guess where the House and the Senate get them from? The people, right? They should not be passing any bills, anything, without sanction from the people, because the people is the ones that commission them. We're talking lawful, y'all. This is just an example. We're talking lawful republic form of government. This is an oligarchy that's being unlawfully and through the media trying to say it's a democracy and it's a republic. It's neither one of those things. It's an oligarchy. And they playing this game because they know they educated you in all this, so they know you a little bit incompetent. But yet they got you signing all types of contracts, and you don't even know who you are. Is that enforceable? No, because if you knew who you are, you would know those contracts is void, ab initio, because a contract in and of itself is the law. And if the contract doesn't stand the weight of its institution, its implication, it ain't a contract. So what am I saying? Read Christian Black Codes of 1724. Read it. I don't want to go through the whole thing, because you'll find a code that you're dealing with right now that's subjecting you to it. Oh, they got slaves who've been disabled from working. They got disability acts for that. They have, they're required to, man, let me tell you, just read it. How many chapters is it? I don't want to go through the whole thing. I don't want to go through the whole thing. I want to get back to what we're talking about. But that's the start. So where we at, y'all? Christian Black Codes. I want to spend the next 45 minutes talking about your right to travel. Because that's what I want to spearhead on this day, the right to travel. Islam? Yes. All right. I have this on recording so I can take a picture of it later. What am I erasing, y'all? I don't want to erase that. I'll just do this part. Hello, everybody. Shalom, family. How are you guys doing? Lovely to see you. Definitely lovely, lovely to see you. All right, you missed the first half, and that went over just the structure. How when you're here, you're no longer playing the Monopoly game, and the Monopoly game is pretty much being orchestrated and constructed. And these are the actual people who are claiming to own all those positions on the board, and you're just running around playing it, literally. And I don't want to go too deep into that. I want to get into the International Affidavit of Right of Travel, Estoppel, Execution, in Lien and Realm. Because a lot of this human trafficking of Moorish American nationals is going to come to an abrupt end. As soon as Moors stop playing this game, Monopoly, and realizing that we've been deceived to play that game because of our ignorance and because we went to the schools that were in the counties. We went to the schools that were in the counties that were giving us the brainwashing to get us to support playing Monopoly in the Federal Reserve Notes game. And once Moors become Moorish American nationals and they want to put their records, their status on records at their so-called JOBs, now they know they owe you something. Now they know they have to pay you in lawful currency. Now they know they can't have you within their doors waking up the rest of the wards that are working for them, giving all their energy to a service corporation that is got them classified as a cattle property and treating them as such. So our job as Moorish American nationals are to get our people from playing this game over here and realize that everything that you have amassed here, you take with you. As long as you rebutting everything and you're standing on law and we're uniting as a nation and not playing games and allowing our fears, which is our false education appearing to be real, to sabotage us. Islam? So, the right to travel is the next program coming up from the Moorish American Consulate, Moorish National Republic Federal Government. The first three processes only to highlight those three because those are the very things that Moors need to do to tie their camel first. They have to tie their camel. Proclamations, name declarations and judicial proclamations, identification cards, trust. Those are the first three. And I don't suggest anybody do anything outside of that to get that done. Because you need protections and you need to make sure you can protect your property, because once you process your trust, you're going to rope right into your government trust, which would be your Moorish National Republic Federal Government Trust under the Moorish American Consulate, to have protection. Because what does the Article 1, let me ask this question, of the Constitution guarantee you? Oops. Well, say it louder. I hear you whispering over there. I do the same thing. I'll be like, I ain't saying that loud. Amendment 1 of Bill of Rights is the Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. I'm going to say that again. Congress shall make no law representing an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. What is religion, y'all? Let me ask y'all that question. Anybody know what religion is?
To do something over and over. Repeatedly.
They got you to believe that it's faith. It's a realignment. And what's your culture that's been robbed, that you've been robbed from, which is why you are identifying as Moorish American, as you got all these chairs over here, as Moorish American, I'll put one over here so now it's squished up. As Moorish American nationals, you've been identifying as a ward, which is outside of your culture. This has been your problem. This has been our problem. We've been identifying as a ward outside of culture, and this is the realignment. to your nationality, which includes your cultural heritage and bloodline. Islam? So if you have the First Amendment right to self-identify, and if your self-identity is your sovereignty and it supersedes that corporate ward status, what do they have over you? If you've read the United Nations Declarations of the Rights of the Child, Human and Indigenous Rights, it says you have the right to self-identification. And we might go over that in detail next class, because it shows you that you have the rights to self-determination. You have the rights to self-govern. You don't have to play Monopoly, and I encourage you to stop because they don't have no more money. So they're going to start next phase, which they're starting already. Why do you think now individuals will get detained and kidnapped for nothing today? You can literally be walking across the street. You can literally be traveling and get detained for non-arrestable offenses, even in their so-called code status, the Christian Black codes, the code statutes of the state. I find it very interesting that people feel the need to know them and quote them, but Constitution, those 4 essentials, which I said earlier today, and I'll highlight them again for those who just joined us. They said, you got 1, the Declaration of Independence of 1776, read it. More than once. Study it. Because you're holding them to these things. You're holding them to these things. The next one is what? The Articles of Confederations of 1777. After that, it is the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, my favorite. Yes. My absolute favorite. They're held to these contracts, family. And then the last one is the Constitution, which I just read Amendment 1. Now, what are the Bill of Rights talking about? Aren't these bills of rights telling you what they can't do at all? And it's only the first 10 that matter, because everything after the first 10 are non-lawful because there was no government actually operating at that particular time. And all the Moors were operating under these nom de guerres. Right? And right now, the Moors are reestablishing their government, their sovereignty on their land, which is Morocco, not the United States. All right. So because I like to say a quote, which is, ignorance of the law is no excuse for breaking it. Anyway, that was the first call. Somebody called me. They should be on the video live, actually, instead of calling me. Anyway, where was I at?
Ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Ignorance of the law is no excuse. And our family members will say this. I'll be honest with say this, because keep this in mind. Our families are the ones that are violating us the most, because they're ground zero. They are the pawns put in the front. They're the pawns put in the front, so you won't stand on the laws, because that is your brother's standing. This is what they do, man. Oh, no, you didn't stop. You better not stop. I should have halted that. I meant to. I forgot. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. And we can't be warring against our family members, y'all. We can't do that. And we have to come to them with love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, because they are just as colonized as we are coming out of that. And we have a lot of that programming that we still have to exercise from us. And the only way that we're going to exercise those misconceptions that we have about ourselves, about our future, about our people, is through the knowledge of it. And not to feel any sort of way, because you're going to go through a lot of emotions. I've been there. You're not going to get around that. But I want to kind of jump into the right to travel. In last class, I kind of told you why they feel like they have jurisdiction and why they are still playing the game. It's because too many of our people are choosing to play it too. Right? So the more we wake up our brothers and sisters. Anyway. This is what Moors do. Yeah, they call me. And they call me like 5 times a day. I thought, okay, if I couldn't answer you the first, second, or third time, don't you think I'm probably busy? I love my people, but they so funny. I mean, they get mad at me like I'm their boyfriend or their girlfriend, but like, you didn't answer my call. I was like, really? I didn't? And I'm sad, so, I go right there with you. I just do. I'm just sorry. But anyway, he might call again or she might call again. All right. Your nationality is you. It's your blood. It's your birthright. You can't be denied it. It cannot be sold to you. It's you that has to act in that capacity. So what I'm saying is, before you even fill out your paperwork, get your identification card, you and more. You just need to be able to articulate that. I know more that ain't never did none of those things and has no problems yet because they know law. Even though they're going to keep falling down those traps, we want to tie our camel, y'all. Right now, we got to tie our camel because the Service Corporation is going through a whole multitude of changes right now. And the Albions are scared shitless. They're scared because and this is why they say sorry. Do y'all notice whenever y'all bump a Albion, they say sorry? And they're very apologetic. It's the energy. It's the energy because they know what they're doing to you. They know what they've taken oaths against to not ever tell you this, to never even admit it. They've taken blood oaths to never talk about Moorish science, to never talk about Moorish heritage, and they're always going to say that because they've taken blood oaths. All right? So stop expecting them to say anything. You don't need it. They can't give you anything that's not already yours. As Julius, if you want to look at anybody, look at Julius Malema in South Africa. He is getting those people together, and the realities are he's telling you how you're supposed to be acting in your capacity as Moorish American nationals. You shouldn't be scared of doing any of the things that we need to do for ourselves as well as our heirs, our children. We're doing this mostly for the children so they can pave the next way, because if we keep them in this ignorance, they will remain there. Islam? So my point is this. I know you have fears. It's because you lack knowledge. The only sword we will ever have to sling are our words.
Come on.
We are the rulers, we are the nobles, we are the gods of Morocco, and can't nobody ever tell you that different. The only person that can convince you of that not being the reality is you. So you're held to your own thoughts. Don't pass them on to other people. Islam?
Islam.
All right. So, realignment. That's all Moors is doing. Oh, we found out we was playing Monopoly our whole lives. And they kept taking all of our stuff, subjecting us to these quasi-corporations that are all designed to take everything from you and to keep you under those Christian black codes. And they'll never teach you and they'll never tell you the truth. It is our job to find it for ourselves, to align, strategize, and get this done. So you won't sit here and see babies getting murdered on Moroccan streets that look like you and that look like me. As well as decolonization, because they got to go. Majority of them have to go. And Moors that have aligned themselves with them, you got to get comfortable with that, because that's the reality. I'm not making that up. They got to go. All right. So I wish I had that person's number. I would tell somebody to call them and tell them to stop calling me. But I'll get them after I get off this call. Off this broadcast. All right. The right to travel. It is stated in the International United Nations Declarations of the Rights of the People. The United Nations is out there supporting us here in Morocco for decolonization. It's been in place since the early 1900s, and we have been the issue because we've been agreeing to this fraud, and they've been trying to help us, and they need to help us, and they can't come in here gang warring war-wise. But it's getting to the point where the whole country is having issues. The whole continent. The whole world is what I'm trying to say. Waiting for the Moors here in the North Gate to wake up. Because we are when they call us gods, they call us that because we are the rulers of the world. We are the true heirs, top succession. We're at the top. were at the head of this. Why you think they beat you down so much? Because they need to, the only way they can continue to play their game of Monopoly is while you sleep. So let's wake up. All right. The right to travel process is coming out this week. I am drafting the document specifically and unique to Pennsylvania corporations. And I'm listing everybody in that document. Because what's coming next is the liens. Okay? If I have to do these all by myself, I would have no problems doing these all by myself. Because like I tell everybody, mine's, yours, we all are going to be free no matter how uncomfortable you have to get in that freedom. Or how uncomfortable I have to make you. And you have to move. So we're listing out all the 67 colonies, corporations, counties. And they all have this infrastructure here. So for Delaware County, here's the question. We all domicile near Delaware. You okay?
Yeah.
What's wrong?
This is too small in here, that's all.
It's too hot? She don't want to?
No, it's too much room. Not enough room. It's just small.
Claustrophobic?
No, not at all. Not claustrophobic. It's just the movement. It's like she has to go use the facility because of her condition. This is why I was good that I got that from you. It's about her kidneys. So she has has a kidney malfunction. So when she has to go, she has to go.
Right.
And there's no time. There's no gauging or not anything. So and then
You want to move some of those chairs around so y'all have a quick free right here. So she can be right there.
Did you look it up?
I looked it up last night, brother. Yeah, but I didn't actually go to the store to get it because it's.
But they told you all the details what it does.
I didn't get it. I didn't do that either. But anyway, there's Anyway.
You want to door open if y'all need some air because you know how it get hot. Now I just have to not inflect my voice.
Just face that way. That's all.
You gotta take that coat off. Help her take that coat off. It's hot. And you know how we bring energy to the room.
I'm hot. Not really cold out either.
No, it's beautiful outside. Yesterday it was even warmer. It was warm. So the right to travel. There are 13 stare decisis cases that I would like everybody to read. There's enough people to read one. Just inflect your voices so they get you on the camera. Let me see if I can pull it up. Okay. It is the first stare decisis case. If you're nervous, you can pass the paper to the next person. I hate it when I was in school when they used to put me on blast. Like, read this section. Like, no, I'm not reading it. You just straight put me on blast. So I do get it. So if you don't want to read it, you can pass it along. And I can read them all if you
Want me
want.
to start now?
There you go.
Okay. The first one is the right to travel, the right to mode of conveyance, the right to locomotion are all absolute rights. And the police cannot make void the exercise of rights. State versus Armstead, 60.
That's 7. You don't have real
okay.
just a stat. Now give it to our teacher.
Pass it on to the next teacher.
There you go. Go ahead. Pass it on to the teacher. Number 2. Oh, you don't want to read it? Give it to your son. He loves to talk.
Yes.
He can do all of them, actually. And I'm going to just move to the side and let him do all of them. You can do all 13. Go ahead. Get up on it. Go ahead. You like to talk. Go ahead.
What are you reading here?
The 13 stare decisis cases on the right to travel. And he just read the first one.
Stare decisis?
Yeah, go in front of the board so they can see.
Did you read the first one?
He read the first one, yes.
Okay. Number 2, the use of the highways for the purpose of traveling and transportation is not a mere privilege, but a common and fundamental right of which the public and natural beings cannot be rightfully deprived. That's Chicago Motor Coach versus Chicago, Illinois. Cite. Number 3, the right to park or travel is part of the liberty of which the natural person, citizen, cannot be deprived without due process of law. Under the 5th Amendment of the United States Constitution, Kent versus Duels. Cite. Number 4, the right of a citizen to travel upon the public highways and to transport one's property thereon, either by carriage or automobile, is not a mere privilege, which a city may prohibit or permit at will, but a common right, which he or she has under the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Thomas versus Smith. Number 5. State police power extends only to immediate threats to public safety, health, welfare, etc. Michigan versus Duke. Cite. Which driving and speeding are not, meaning they criminalize they criminalize speeding, they criminalize stopping at a stop sign, what's that? Or even a traffic light,
or even parking.
Right. These are not crimes.
No.
That's
And they talked about police, right? Police ain't got no authority.
No.
They ain't got no authority. Ain't no officer.
What you tell me?
Highway
What you
They
tell
ain't
me?
supposed to be talking to you.
What did you tell me? Walmart.
Walmart
police.
Walmart police.
Walmart
They
security.
security.
Yeah, exactly.
Corporate.
So they're corporate public policy enforcers. Number 6. The state is prohibited from violating substantial rights, only versus city. Cite. And it cannot do by one power in reference to police power, that which is, for example, prohibited express to any other such power in reference to taxation / eminent domain as a matter of law. U.S. and Utah versus Daniels. Cite. Nor indirectly that which is prohibited to it directly. Fairbanks versus U.S. Number 7. Traveling in an automobile on the public roads was not a threat to the public safety or health and constituted no hazard to the public. And such a traveler owned nothing more than due care as regards to tort for negligence to the public, and the owner owned no other duty to the public in reference to the state. He, she, or his or her auto having equal rights to and on the roadways / highways or horses and wagons, etc. This same right is still substantial. Is still substantive rule in that speeding, running stop signs, traveling without a license, plates, or registration are not threats to the public safety and thus are not arrestable offenses. Christie versus Elliott. Cite. That's in California. And California versus Florida. Cite. And that's in 1971. Yeah, notice a lot of the older cases, or have never been changed or overthrown or reversed. See, that's funny. You talking about that? See, it all goes back to when they first had an automobile. The ones who were able to afford it were the doctors, lawyers, and they got the people that actually drove them around were chauffeurs. So it started with a chauffeur's license. That's why you need a license. That's where a license is for. They're making commerce by they're being paid to drive another individual. Right. So they switched it over to make the whole public, which is illegal, and then come in with the statutes, which is not law. And we right.
Say that again, bro. Say that again.
Statutes, not law.
No, from the beginning.
What?
You said a lot. The
Well,
original purpose of the driver's license.
It's like when we first had cell phones. Everybody couldn't afford it. Cell phones went $1,000. Then the bills took a couple thousand.
Right.
You know what I mean? So now they made it. Now it's affordable. Everyone has it, but they did the same thing with the cars. So now they say, oh, we're gonna make money off of them from having a driver's license.
But who's at fault?
They are.
Who else?
Us.
Well, we are for not exercising our rights.
There you go.
Right. It's like
If you don't exercise your rights, do you have them?
no, you lose them.
If you don't know them,
don't
can you enforce them?
No.
So didn't they get very big, those corporations, by our ignorance in the laws?
Exactly.
So now we're standing on it, and they're like, we've been eating off you for 100 years.
Right.
How dare you start
Resisting.
How dare you realign yourself
How dare
like
you find
we
out the
did
truth?
in 1776
How dare you find out the truth?
because of the violations of the
You
state.
talking about, because I got pulled over. Cops. But matter of fact, even to be more specific, when the cops put the lights on, it does not mean to pull over. It means that you need emergency assistance. If you look under the Pennsylvania Motor Vehicle Penal Code, so we've been programmed to think that we're like, oh, pull over. Nah, because I learned a long time ago, guy down south, he was like, I wait till I get to my destination. I'm not going to break any so-called traffic rules, but I'm gonna get to my. If you want to still follow me, then fine. I've done that several times here in Philadelphia. You know what I'm saying? So it's how you handle it. You know what I'm saying? You get belligerent and agitated and hostile and viral, then they're gonna respond.
But they only getting that way because of what? The ignorance.
Your ignorance, right.
So
Exactly.
Title 49 was talking about what you were just talking about. Does
Okay.
anybody know what Title 49 is talking about? Title 49 is the title for transportation.
Right. And what it is that's the federal part.
Yep.
Right.
And the states is 75.
Right.
For at least Pennsylvania state.
Right. But still under 49 is not criminalized.
But what do they say in the title? The
Right,
introduction of the title still says specifically that title is for interstate commerce.
Right, commerce. Right, you're not making money on the highway. You're going to the school, the store, visit. Well, it's a ride. It's to travel around. See, it's also the language.
Here's the thing that'll make you noodle.
It's also
That
the language.
title is for them. That's not for you,
Right,
the sovereigns of
right,
land.
right.
So even if you wanted to create a business to haul anything, they can't subject you to something that's outside of you. Is the point.
Right.
I want to just chime in on what the brother said. That is really key, in coming from less to more, being a ward, that our vernacular must change,
Right.
because we've been given words that we think, are, match what it is that they're saying to us. And so
Right.
we can't use terms like I'm driving in my car. No,
Right.
I'm traveling in my conveyance on my land.
The car is fine. It's not vehicle.
Yeah. Right. I just I want to share this online. I'm fine because I'm transparent. But I talked to you last week, Sister Shannon, about some things I needed to do. For now, I'm put ARR. I still need to go through the process. But I read everything on there, and under travel, and asked me, do I have a car? And do I travel? But then in a little box, it's clear. Everything that we're being taught here is really true. You look at these documents really clear, and they say, how do you travel? And then it says by bus, by car, or by
Carriage,
subway.
boat.
So see, when you get on the bus, you don't need a license. They're telling you right there in the language. How do you travel? It didn't say how do you get, it said how do you travel? Because we have the right to travel in our conveyance without a license, and they just declared that. But if you don't know what that means, travel as opposed to drive, then we're gonna go along to get along, and
Right.
and not be very specific in brainwashing ourselves. I mean, purposely, something that I tell my offspring. We taken 30 years. I'm 57.
You have heirs, baby. You don't have no offspring. But go ahead.
My heirs. My heirs. You're right.
You ain't cattle.
Yeah, right.
That's right. And I let them know. No, the same way we were indoctrinated with all of this. And you're in your 30s. I'm 57, and I'm just now finding this. But I'm looking forward to being here another 57 years or so. I'm going to read. I'm going to learn something, so I need to read what it is and who it is that I am. All of this other stuff that we've been programmed to believe, you really have to unplug from that idiot box and really learn who we are. Because when we can't continue to traffic, being double-minded. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. 1 minute, you want to do this, with them because, like you said, a fear. And then, you want to go back to being, no, it's who we are organically. That's that. Bottom line, top of the page. Between there is no compromise. This is who I am, just when I'm standing on who I am, and you're not. That's not who I am. You're not going to, click anything to me under that ward state that clearly does not apply to me. So
It's long. What number you want?
Number 8. This is right. This is further explained.
Inflect a little louder.
Okay, number 8. It's further explained. It says under the United States Republic's constitutional system of government, and upon the individuality and intelligence of the citizen, the state does not claim to control one's conduct to others, leaving one the sole judge as to all the effects that affects oneself. That's Mugler versus Kansas. Number 9, where rights secured by the Constitution are involved, there can be no rule making or legislation which, without abrogating them. Miranda versus Arizona. That's another major case I always use, because they're like I said, abrogate. The statute cannot supersede constitutional right.
Right.
And that's what we have to understand.
Exactly.
We programmed to believe, but it's a language. Because a police officer says to me, you need a license to drive in the state of Pennsylvania. I said, you're absolutely correct. I said, but I'm not driving. I'm traveling. Then he was stuck. Then I pulled over, said the same thing to his sergeant and to his lieutenant. I wanted his captain. They wouldn't get the captain. They lied about that, so I called the station. Captain was out on sick leave. They told me he's out on the road, can't be contacted. I said, now you're all liars. You know what I'm saying? So now, you know what I'm saying? Under oath, because when they're wearing that badge, when they're wearing that uniform, they're under oath.
Oh,
when they put everything on paper, when they write that ticket, so-called ticket, it's under oath. So now you find that they're lying under oath.
Not only are
That's
they
a crime.
lying, they
That's
give
a
you
crime.
evidence of fraud.
Yeah, but did you give him notice?
Already prior to, you're right. I did give him notice. I said this does not apply to me. You know what I'm saying? That's one. I said
prior to that, and prior to communicating with them, did
Right.
you give notice in writing before?
Oh no. I didn't have the knowledge at that time. At that time.
Because I gave notice, different kind of case, but pretty much the same thing. Someone had passed. I was the executive of the estate. Some what do you call it? Home health aides. I didn't know they could be criminal like the way they did this case, and they were working to take everything, and I'm the criminal, and they were calling the police on me. So I had to draft. Oh yeah, I was. They were gonna arrest me. So I had to draft up the a notice to both the police captain and the police chief in Philadelphia and the attorney general and the state police. And so when I went down there in person with a copy of my documentations to talk to the lieutenant who was smoking outside, I said, I need to talk with you. And then he came in and I showed him my paperwork. Instantly, he said, oh, we don't deal in civil matters. They were noticed.
Were they trying to flip the script?
I killed them right ahead when I put everything in writing and made that statement. All of a sudden, everybody quieted down. I'm just letting you know.
No,
Because
right.
you're outside their jurisdiction. They just
Right.
realized that they thought you was a ward
Right.
within their jurisdiction.
And
when
stealing
you came there,
somebody's property.
and when you came in there and presented yourself in a lawful capacity, you were outside of that jurisdiction. They know they had no rights, and they know you could ultimately bring it further and charge them with something. So they actually, at the end of the day, were trying to protect themselves.
Well, he did that.
You know what I'm saying?
He was very friendly.
Number 10. The claim and exercise of constitutional rights cannot be converted into a crime. Miller versus Kansas. Cite. Number 11. For a crime to exist, there must be an injured party. Corpus delicti. That means the body of a crime. There can be no sanction or penalty imposed on one because of his constitutional right. Scherer versus Cullen. Number 12. If any tribunal court finds absence of proof of jurisdiction over a person and subject matter, the case must be dismissed. Louisville versus Motley. Cite. And it's further saying the accuser bears the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. The accuser, that means them. So they have to prove, it's like really in actuality, they have to prove that you're a corporation. They can only bring a corporation into court. They're a corporation. But you have to prove that you show that you're not, but they have to prove that you are part of a corporation. But we do it through our verbiage and out of ignorance. Number 13, lack of federal jurisdiction cannot be waived or overcome by arrangement of parties, Griffin versus Matthews. And want of jurisdiction may not be cured by consent of parties, Industrial Additional Association versus C.I.R. site.
Islam.
Sister Sharon.
Thank you.
Sister Sharon.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to comment on what our brother said under 9. He said it, and I really want to make sure that us Moors really
I was about to go there
understand
too.
that the Constitution. He said he read it, and sometimes we read past things, and people, we really need to break that down. It said that the Constitution is there to secure our rights, not to give us. We don't derive our rights from the Constitution. That's there to secure the rights of the national. We get our rights from God, divinely from God. And so when they come to you and they act like, this is a privilege, and I had to understand what I say. Do you know the difference between a privilege and a right? You know what? No, privileges.
Who has privileges and who has rights?
Right, we have rights.
Foreigners have privileges.
Thanks. And why do the foreigners have privileges?
It's actually treaties.
They're not indigenous.
Because they're not. There you go. He said it right there. Because they're not indigenous.
Okay.
They're not Aboriginal indigenous, right?
Okay.
That is so true.
But the
Number
treaty
9.
also states it. The treaty also states it. It tells them they have to do business here. They got to be licensed.
Right.
It gives them permission.
Right.
And they,
not only do they have to be licensed,
but
not only do they have to be, but why do they have to be licensed? We gotta track them, y'all. We gotta make sure they doing what they supposed to be doing. We gotta be making sure they paying us to be here. And we ain't been making sure they've been doing any of that.
Matter of fact, if I'm being charged with, or so-called allegedly charged with driving our license, then pay me, because I should be getting paid to use the highway. If you're saying that I need a license,
but they claiming the highway right under what? Oh, this is to drive on the Pennsylvania highway, the public highways of Potential Corporation, Pennsylvania Commonwealth. I work for Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Right.
This is kind of the language, right?
Right. So you flip the script, say, well, where's my money at? Because if you're telling me I need a license to travel or to drive, then
within your corporation. How can I even drive in a corporation? How you driving in a corporation?
Can't even live there.
Right.
You can't even live there.
Yeah.
Right? So they sitting here trying to force their Christian black codes on people who got out of their jurisdiction through nationality. And because they can't acknowledge this, because to acknowledge this is what? Kill themselves, right? Under the dead oath? Dead pledge? They pledge never to say anything about Moorish Americans, Moorish nationality, fezzes, turbans, culture. They took a pledge to this. I just saw a video that I posted earlier today that talked about the Rastafarian nation. What the hell is a Rastafarian nation?
No such thing.
What is that? See, somebody sent it to me, and I posted it on my Facebook. But I put these things to say, they're gonna acknowledge the hell out of wars. They're gonna acknowledge all types of wars. So they're gonna acknowledge Indians, tribes, black power. They ain't acknowledge that though. They acknowledge everything but your Moorish nationality that supersedes everything that they're doing. Because to acknowledge that is to what? Lay down the gun and submit to what? The Declaration of Independence. They got to sit here and go back in line. And they got to get right.